General Manager Howie Roseman here. Excited to bring you the first ever Nick Sirianni press conference featuring YouTube content creators. We're so excited to bring this here to you. This is, if you haven't heard of JcSports Talk, I'm here to tell you this is a Howie Roseman approved channel. So if you haven't hit that like, if you haven't left a comment, and you haven't subscribed by the end of the video, make sure y'all do that. All right, y'all. Without further ado, let's get to the press conference.
All questions ready for Nick?
Coach Sirianni.
Coach.
Coach Nick. That's a go for Dubs, the O-line guru.
Hey, Coach Dub, the online guru here. Thank you very much for your time. I just had a few questions to ask you really fast. Question number one. I see that we've been having a couple of penalties with the offensive line lately. We even had them before Jalen Hurts' injury. What are some of the ideas that you had in place to make sure we can eradicate that problem so when playoff time comes, we're a little bit more disciplined and not having them errors? Our offensive line is definitely one of the best in the world, probably the best in the world. I understand we have 5 Pro Bowlers on there, but with that being said, how can we tighten up them issues and what some things that you put in place? Secondly, I would like to ask Lane Johnson. We understand he's a gold jacket, blue ring wearing all-pro right tackle, probably the best right tackle at least the last 5 years in the game. How do you expect to make up for him this last game, and what do you expect from him when he gets back in the playoffs? Do you think he'll be 100%? Thank you very much, Dub, the O-line guru here. Thank you, Coach.
All right, Coach Nick, we're ready for you.
Yeah, no, those are good questions. Look, I mean, when you look at Lane Johnson, when you look at this offensive line, we've got some veterans, right? We've got some guys that know what they're supposed to do. And I have full faith that, Stoutland is going to get these guys ready no matter who is going to be on that offensive line. As far as, the mistakes and the false starts, I'm sure you're talking about, just Jason Kelsey and some of the guys not necessarily looking like they know what the snap count is. I've said it before, I'll say it again, I'll put that on me, trying to get a little bit too cute with these snap counts, trying to do different things with these snap counts. And when you don't prepare enough for the game, you see what happens in the game. So I will take that. I will, take that one on the chin. I got to be a little bit better about getting my guys ready. Now, as far as Lane Johnson, we all know he's a dog, right? I told you about how much better of an athlete Jalen Hurts is than most of you guys. I can say the same thing about Lane Johnson. Lane Johnson is a freak of nature. So will he be 100%? I don't know. I can't, the doctors tell me he's good to go. That's what I'm going to go with. Is he ready to go? I think so. I think that Lane Johnson knows his body better than anybody else. So if he tells me he's ready to go, I'm ready to put him out there. And I will say 85-90% of Lane Johnson might be still a top 5 right tackle in the league. So I feel confident with what we have going. Thanks for the question.
All questions ready for Nick?
Coach Sirianni.
Coach.
Coach Nick. Go for Bird Gang.
Thank you. It's Bird Game 31 with BGN Sports. So far, so good. 13-3. We dropped 2 straight. So I was just wondering, Nick, the coaching staff has gotten better from last year, I must say. The players have gotten better from last year. Jalen Hurts has gotten better from last year. And I'm pretty sure it silenced the whole quarterback versus system thing that Michael Parsons was talking about. So my question to you is it Nick Sirianni and this coaching staff that drives the Eagles team? Or is it really just Jalen freaking Hurts?
All right, Coach Nick, we're ready for you.
Yeah, no, good question. Good question as well. Look, you look at this team, you look at how we've built this organization from the top down, right? We're lucky to have owner like Jeffrey Lurie. We're lucky to have a GM like Howie Roseman who have kind of given us our space and let us do what we feel is right for this team. That comes with trust, though, right? That comes with trust. And I think the same goes with a Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts showed last year that he had skills. He had, the skills to pay the bills. He had what it took to be a quarterback in this league. And I think this year he's now showing he can get a team to trust him. So to answer your question, is it the coaching staff? Is it Jalen Hurts? I think Jalen would tell you it's us, and I think we should be telling you it's him. I think that this team is a very good team, right? It's a family unit. We see what happens when you're able to go out there and fight for your brothers. So I don't think that question is easily answered. Again, like I said, I think that we'll be quick to tell you that it's all on Jalen, and I think everybody, Jalen will tell you it's on everybody else. And I think that's what makes us such a great team, is that it's not just one person. But great question, BG.
All questions ready for Nick.
Coach Sirianni.
Coach Nick, go for Gate City Sports. Steve, Gate City Sports Talk. I really appreciate you taking my question. I have a question regarding the way that we handle pressure looks. And I know that it seems a little funny to try to critique how good this offense has been this season. I mean, look, I'll fully lay out there that Miles Sanders over 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns, and Devontae Smith closing in on the single-season reception record, A.J. Brown closing in on the single-season receiving yard record. I mean, Dallas Goedert's having an outstanding season. I get that I'm nitpicking here, no doubt about it. But I will say that versus pressure, we tend to have some tendencies here. Number one thing I notice is that we tend to empty out. We empty out, go into empty back sets, spread out teams, and we try to tackle them that way, which I get that, there's merit and there's reason for doing that. We tend to go with tunnel screens to the wide receivers, tight end screens to Dallas Goedert, and try to use those guys in open space and, use their athleticism. I completely get it. But is there room inside of the offense? Is there room inside of the, putting together the game plans, putting together, installing our offense? Is there room to where we could add things like hot routes, communication between wide receiver and communication between quarterback, try to get those guys on the same page, try to get, some just really quick looks to where, Devontae or AJ or Dallas or Quez or, whoever it is, Miles, if he split out, just kind of waves out to Jen. It's like, hey, man, if they come free, if he comes, I'm free. Hit me with the football. Just wondering, is that something we might see going into the future here in Philadelphia? All right, Coach Nick, we're ready for you.
That's a good question as well, man. You look at this offensive coaching staff, obviously I'm included, but I trust Shane. I trust our quarterback coaches. I trust our wide receiver coaches. I trust our players. So I feel as though if that's something that they feel they need to work on, if that's something that they feel like they are missing within the system, I think that is something that we will see come the playoffs. Look, I feel the Eagles have been very lucky in the sense that we haven't had to show our full hand yet. We've played cards for a full season and haven't had to show our ace yet. So I think that there's still a lot up our sleeves. But that's fair. That's a very fair question. And when you look at the numbers, teams aren't blitzing us as much as it may feel, right? So it's hard to really focus in on that when it's not even half of what's going on offensively. I believe it's around a third of what's happening offensively. So we do have to get better at that. And I totally agree with you that, communication is key. Communication is key. We are, like I said before, we are a flower bed and we need to communicate to grow. So I agree with you. Great question. I do think that it's something you'll see coming in the playoffs. A little bit more communication, a little bit more cleaned up. Hopefully that answered your question.
All questions ready for Nick.
Coach Sirianni.
Coach.
Yo, that. Go for Philly Fresh.
Coach here. I have a question. Philly Fresh, Yoda podcast. Listen, I just want to know, when you look at Jonathan Gannon and you see that he's letting his players in zone get barbecue chicken, what is the conversation to stop that? Because we know in the last two games it has been 35 for 36 passes attempts that have been received in the zone. So is this something that you want to do to stop that? What do you tell Jonathan Gannon? Because our defense can't look like this anymore.
All right, Coach Nick, we're ready for you.
Yoda. Yeah, no, that's a good question. And I know a lot of people looking at this defense, they look at the numbers and they're enamored with the numbers, and the defense has been very good. Jonathan Gannon has made some strides, obviously, from last year, going from almost bottom of the league in sacks to now a historic pace. We're 4 away from 72. Look, if it's not broken, don't fix it comes to mind. But at the same time, I know that's a terrible answer. There's no good answer. The only way I can really answer that is to tell you why it's happening, right? I feel that Jonathan Gannon and this defense want to keep the ball in front of them. The defense does not want you getting over top of them. They don't want you getting big plays. They want you to have to go 11 plays down the field without making a mistake. And unfortunately, especially against some of the better quarterbacks, they don't make mistakes sometimes. And sometimes they can go 11 plays without making a mistake. Sometimes offensive coordinators on the opposite side can come together with 11 plays that just work. So I understand your concern, and I understand a lot of people's concern with that. You never want to see your guys getting roasted, but it's more than just the scheme. I think that looking at having CGJ out for such a extended period of time, you look at Avonte Maddox not being on the field, and it's no knock to what Josiah Scott, Kayvon Wallace, Reed Blankenship, what they've been able to bring to the team. I think they've played well in the roles that they've been asked to play perfectly, not even close. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. But I think that you put together the injuries and what we're trying to do out there, I feel like you'll see it get better, especially now that we have guys coming back. So, listen, just save me some of that barbecue chicken. But I think that, unfortunately, this is the culmination of injuries, in my opinion, and the scheme that we play right now does not favor the guys that are in when we have those injuries. Now, I will say that I am talking to John, and I am trying to figure out some way that we can kind of learn how to, on the fly, mold our defense to the players and maybe not necessarily the other way around. It's a tough situation to be in, but I do think that it'll get better. And like I said, hopefully you save me some of that barbecue chicken.
All questions ready for Nick?
Coach.
Coach Sirianni.
Coach.
Go for On the Road to Victory with Jimmy Smith.
Coach Sirianni. Jimmy Smith here from On the Road to Victory. Quick question. With the recent rumors that Jonathan Gannon could be on the way out next season, how do you replace a defensive coordinator that has done as well as he has? With this defense being number one in total yardage, first against the pass, that's total passing yards per game, yards per completion, yards per attempt, first in sacks, the first team to ever have 4 players with 10 plus sacks, and they are 5 sacks away from breaking the NFL record, which is 72 total sacks in a season by the 74-75 Bears. How do you replace someone like Jonathan Gannon? Do you go out, bring in someone like Vic Fangio with the same style defense, or do you completely change it, start blitzing every play? Do you think that we need to create more pressure than we already have somehow and break more NFL records? Or how would you replace this production? Thank you. And as always, go Birds!
All right, Coach Nick, we're ready for you.
Yeah, I think I'm going to pass that on over to Howie. I think he could probably answer that just a little bit better. He knows a little bit more on that situation.
Thank you, Coach Nick. Hey, Jimmy. On the Road to Victory with Jimmy Smith. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for, allowing me the privilege to answer this question. As a general manager, I like to have, some conversations with my head coach. I like to kind of go in and weigh the roster first, right? I mean, you mentioned a lot of things have gone positively for this defense in the 2022-2023 season. Obviously we came just short of setting that sack record, but we're very proud of what we accomplished here, having 4 players over 10 sacks, which is something that, we're very, very proud of, to say the least. In addition to that, what we were able to put together, the secondary we built, all these things, we do take into consideration the scheme fit. With that said, I think we all know that sometimes you got to take a chance on the guy, right? If a guy brings in the right type of culture, if the guy has a right, kind of the right mentality, if he's got the right kind of backing from his previous coaching staff. If we have a guy out there that we think just deserves an opportunity, we want to give that said individual the opportunity. So we're going to weigh our options. Obviously Vic Fangio is a great defensive-minded coach in this league. He is someone who has helped build systems inside this league, and obviously we would feel pretty comfortable with his ability to get the most out of the players we have on the team, but let's be real. Mr. Fangio is going to have quite the interest come the offseason, so you got to have contingency plans as well. We're going to definitely make our rounds, interview people, and kind of see where that leads us, if you will. But, hey, we thank you so much for your question, Jimmy, and as you said, go Birds.
All questions ready for Nick?
Coach.
Coach.
That's a go for JcSports Talk.
JC from JcSports Talk. Thank you for taking my question. So I do have a couple questions for you. One, last Sunday in the first half, your 1,200, your Pro Bowl running back, over 1,200 plus rushing yards, over double-digit touchdowns, through the ground. This dude, Miles Sanders, had 2 attempts in the first half. What was going through your mind? What did you tell Shane Steichen at halftime to change the game plan? And second question is, Jalen Hurts could be coming back. Are you going to run the ball more with Miles Sanders instead of doing the RPO, or are you going to try to keep the same, game plan, the playbook before he got injured? Thank you.
All right, Coach Nick, we're ready for you.
Look, Miles Sanders, man, Miles Booby has been allowed to spin, and it's amazing to watch what he's been able to do. I'm proud of him. I really am. I'm very happy for Miles Sanders. There's nobody, in my opinion, in that running back room that probably deserves it more than Miles Sanders. There's been a lot of talk throughout his career what he would be for this Eagles team, right? A lot of ups and downs, whether it be the fumbling issues, whether it be the health concerns. This year, he kind of has been able to squash all that, show that he's been a true number one guy. And that's in spite of us doing our best at sometimes to forget that he's on the team. So to answer your question, yes. To answer your question bluntly, in the playoffs and starting this week, I want to get Miles Sanders involved. I want him to get the touches that he deserves. It opens up more for those, great wide receivers that we have, that amazing tight end that we have. It makes the job of the offensive line a little bit more fun, right? I won't say easier, because it's never easy to go out there and block men, but it makes it a little bit more fun when you're able to just put your, foot in the ground and push people back. That's what offensive linemen like. So I want to be able to give my O-line what they like to do. And again, Booby Miles Sanders has deserved it. He deserves it. It's no question that he has played at a very high level, and I want to reward that, and I want to continue to see him play at that high level. Now, as far as Jalen Hurts, it kind of goes back to what I said prior to him, mitigating his injuries and stuff like that. I'm not going to change who Jalen Hurts is, and I don't think Jalen Hurts would allow that. Jalen Hurts is a gamer. Jalen Hurts is a guy that is going to go out there and do what he needs to do to win a game. So if that means that he has to run the ball, 10 times, 15 times, that is what he's going to do. Unfortunately, you can never, ever be too careful, right? Most injuries happen within the pocket anyways, and I'm not using it as a why we're running it. We have to throw caution to the wind when the games are this important. We cannot just go out there and I don't know a way of not saying it without cursing, but we can't go out there and play with our tails tucked between our legs. You know what I mean? So I understand the concern of getting our number one quarterback hurt. I understand the concern of him going out there and, losing him if he is to run the ball. God forbid that happens. I still believe in this team. I still believe in the guys behind him. So Jalen Hurts is going to go out there and he's going to be who Jalen Hurts has been for the whole season. And I have no doubts in that. And I have no doubts that we'll be fine. And I have no doubts that he'll do his best to keep himself in the game and to keep our team in the game. So, I hope that answers the question.
All questions ready for Nick?
Go for Hunter Doyle of Philly Insider Podcast.
Coach Sirianni, what's going on? Hunter Doyle here from Philly Insider. I want to know what you've thought of the special teams unit, specifically in the back half of the season, the improvements they've made, some of the personnel changes they've made over the course of this stretch run that we've had going on here. How do you feel about Coach Clay and what he's done with his unit so far? And what are you expecting from them going into the playoffs?
Coach Sirianni, if you don't mind, I'll take this question here. Coach Clay here, Special Teams Coordinator, Philadelphia Eagles. Look, I really appreciate actually getting the opportunity to field a question on special teams play in our special teams unit, because probably something we weren't really expecting, so kudos to you for the great question here. What I'll say is this. So, Hunter, Philly Insider Podcast, I'll say that we're very, very pleased with the development we've received from our players. Britton Covey has come a long way since week one to, sitting down side of it, bye week, getting prepared for the divisional round of the playoffs. We feel that he has made leaps and bounds in his development. We are very, very proud of just how far that young man has come. it was unfortunate. You lose guys during the season, and sometimes that can really hurt you. It can really throw a wrench into your plans, if you will. We've been quite fortunate, though. We got Curran off of, sitting out there available as a free agent, as a veteran punter. He's a guy that we feel pretty comfortable coming in here in big-time moments and big-time games, helping us flip field position and doing some things correctly. I mean, what can we say? What can we say about our kicking game? I mean, look, we're in a really good spot here, guys. I mean, we know what we have here. And, the thing we're looking to probably improve as we move forward is that we've got to be a little bit better in coverage. We know that just as well as you guys know that. Our punt and our kick coverage needs to be better. It does, because winning and maintaining field position is very important. That fact is not lost on us, and just know that we are putting in those extra hours trying to get ourselves ready for this playoff push, because just like you, we want to hoist that Lombardi, guys. All right, Joe. Thank you so much for the question.
All questions ready for Nick?
That's a go for Lord Brunson, a.k.a. Hurt Season.
Coach, thank you for taking my question. First question, with the struggles that we saw with the offense during the absence of Jalen Hurts, is it possible that we look in the future to get in a backup that kind of has the same skill set as Jalen Hurts, so we could kind of look more fluid and run in the same scheme if Jalen Hurts is unavailable? And also, with the injury that we just saw to Jalen Hurts, how do we mitigate that in the future? Is there a plan in place for him to take less hits? Do we do less design runs? What's the plan moving forward, being as though we saw how impactful it was for our franchise quarterback to be out of the lineup?
All right, Coach Nick, we're ready for you.
I'm going to answer. Good question again. I'm going to answer that question a little bit backwards. Starting with how will we mitigate him getting injured? Unfortunately, this is, we've seen it time and time again. This is one of those sports you can't really stop injury, especially with the type of game that he plays. I will say that I feel like Jalen Hurts is a very rare specimen. I guess maybe that's a bad word for it, but he's a rare breed in the sense that he doesn't necessarily take a lot of hits, right? Even when you see him outside of the pocket, he's usually sliding. He's usually getting out of bounds. So he does mitigate a lot of injury risk on his own. As a team, as a coaching staff, and obviously as our medical staff, there's going to be things that we want to do to kind of further control that. But again, we can't really stop him, and I don't want to stop him from being who he is. I don't want to tell him, don't run the ball. Now, for the first part of that, look, I think that Gardner Minshew had a tough going, and I will say that, is he Jalen Hurts? By no means, right? Obviously with the legs, but I do believe that Gardner Minshew can go out there and play football. We saw him put up some good numbers against the Cowboys. Obviously had a terrible game as far as turnovers go in both games, but had a bad game against the Saints. Look, I would love to get a guy that has the same speed, same, tools that a Jalen Hurts has, but I don't know how realistic that is to get that as a backup. I will say that we do need to look for somebody that can come in and run our system. I did feel that, and I still do feel that a guy like Gardner Minshew can do that. So I'm not going to throw out the possibility of a guy like Gardner coming back, because it might happen. But at the same time, I do understand your question, and I do agree that we want to find somebody that maybe fits and maybe is a little bit closer to what Jalen Hurts is, so we don't lose as much, especially in the run game. But I don't want to take away what Gardner Minshew has done in his career and what he's even done in Philadelphia. He's had some good games, and I don't want to completely erase that, but good question.
Okay, guys, that's all we have for Nick. Thank you, everybody.
Have a good one, guys.